What is good, creative? Sunjay again from Ceasar Graphics. Welcome to my channel. In this tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you how to tell story using shadow. Before we dive into the understanding the use of shadow, I need to let you know that shadow is an area of darkness caused when light is blocked by something. Shadow is one of the tools we use to achieve depth in our design projects. So in this tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to use the right shadow in your design project. I'm sure you're going to enjoy this tutorial, so sit back, relax, and keep watching. In graphic design, there are several ways to use shadow. In this tutorial, I'm going to be sharing the three most common type of shadows that we use in graphic design to tell story the right way. The hard shadow. This shadow is mostly used when you are trying to achieve making your elements close to a surface. The closer the elements is to the surface, the harder the shadow. All right. Our next shadow is the soft shadow. Now, this shadow is mostly used when the object is closer to the light than the surface. If you're trying to say, okay, this element is closer to the light than the surface, this is the right shadow to use. Now, the last type of shadow here is the curve shadow. Now, we mostly use this shadow when we are trying to say maybe there's a lift. We are trying to say, okay, there's a lift on the project. Like maybe you have a paper on a surface. Now you now want to achieve making it look like there's a part of the paper that is lifted, like you want to achieve that lift part on the project, and that's when you use this type of shadow. All right, now for you to understand what I'm trying to say here, I'm going to work on a project now so as to use that to educate you guys more on how you can achieve successful shadow on your projects. I do design review training for designers. During our last design review training, a designer sent me this design to critique, and during the training, I explained that one of the things that affected the success of this project is not using shadow the right way. What I'm going to do in this tutorial is to use this design to educate you guys on how to use shadow. I already have a document created with the elements I'm going to use to achieve the project. So for those of you that care to know the frame size of this project, I'm using 1000 by 1000 frame size for this project because it's an album art. Now, this is not the only frame size you're to use to achieve album art. There are several frame size that you can use, but you have to make sure you achieve the perfect box size when designing an album art. All right, now this tutorial is not for album art, so let's go back to the tutorial. All right, so I'm going to hit the OK button now. I'm going to create a new layer now. So this should be behind this, and I'm going to call this background. So then my background color is set to white. So I'm going to apply background color by holding on Control Backspace, which is the shortcut. You know, I said in the beginning of this tutorial that shadow is part of how we tell story. Now, I've seen so many designs that, you know, that look like this. There are times when you don't need shadow on your project, but you avoid the use of shadow when you understand the message, the goal. Okay. So if, for example, you have to work on a project and you have your elements, the way I have it right now on this project, the message here is to say that the rose is floating. All right, because when there's no shadow, it means the object is floating. So right now, I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to apply the different type of shadow to this project to create an impression that this shadow is on a surface. All right, and I'm going to make the applying of the shadow dynamic with the three types of shadow that I explained or I shared with you guys. So now I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to call this layer shadow. I'm going to make sure that my foreground color here is set to black. I am going to select the brush tool. I need to quickly let you guys know this, that you need to first know the angle where your light is coming in through before you start applying the shadow. So the idea here is to make it look like my lights, all right, is coming from this side. Okay. So my light is coming from here. So this is the lights. So the light is coming from this side of my project. So my shadow is going to be on this area here. All right. Whatever I'm going to apply now, the shadow I'm going to apply to the project should be on this area because my light is coming from here. Now, for those of you that don't really get what I'm saying here, picture it this way. Your shadow is always on the opposite side of the angle where your light is coming from. So if I have an object here, this is an object, and my lights, this is the lights. All right, let's just say this is the light here. All right, so if my lights touches the objects, my shadow is going to come, it's going to be on this side here because this is the opposite side of the light. All right, so that's the same principle that we're going to apply to what I'm going to do here. All right, so I'm going to delete everything now. All right, and I'm going to hit Control D. Then I'm going to go to my brush settings now. Select the brush tool. Then I'll make sure I'm on the soft round brush. Don't forget, make sure you're on the soft round brush. And I'm going to turn off shape dynamic now, and I'm going to turn on transfer now, and I'll go under transfer setting and make sure that my control here is set to pen pressure. This needs to go off. All right, now for those of you that don't have a graphics tablet, you can always make your flow 8 and you're still going to achieve the same move that I'm about to achieve now. Now, I know some of you are wondering, why are we making all this move? It's always good to control the strength of your brush yourself. Notice what's going to happen here now. If I apply the brush to the project now, you see I have this light brush. Now, the reason why I'm having the light effect of the brush is because I did not apply too much pressure on the surface of my tablet. But if I apply more pressure, you see that I have hard brush on the project. Now, for those of you that don't have a graphics tablet, you're still going to achieve the same move. If I'm going to turn off transfer now. Now, I'm acting like I don't have a graphics tablet now. And I'm going to make my flow 8. Now, you see that we're still going to achieve the same move. Now, I'm using a mouse now. And if I apply the brush now, you see that I'm having, the more I apply the brush, the more the brush start getting harder or thicker on my project. I'm going to do it again. See, this is the first applying of the brush. Now, if I continue applying the brush to the same spot, you'll notice that my brush will start getting harder and harder and like that. All right. So yeah, I'm going to delete everything now. All right. And I'll hit Control D to deselect. And then I'll go back to my brush tool and make my flow, change my flow back to 100. All right, now let's start applying the brush to the project. Okay, so now this side of the rose is far from the surface. You know, when you drop a rose, all right, it doesn't come out flat, which is the mistake that this designer did here. All right, the idea here is more like the rose is cut out from a printed paper, and that's why we have this hard shadow on this side of the rose, which is not really okay for the project. All right, so because here, all right, is more bulky, permits me, I hope that English is correct. Our shadow here is not going to be harder. So to apply the shadow, what I'm going to do is to gently, oops, excuse me, I did not remember to turn on my transfer. So I'm going to gently apply the shadow here like so. All right, so I'm just going to apply it here again like that. Okay, now this side, all right, of the rose is touching the surface. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just gently apply a shadow here. like that. Now increase the brush and then just gently apply that again like that. Now notice the way I'm applying the shadow. You notice that when I'm getting to the side where I have the lifted part of the rose, I decided to make that area, all right, that part of the shadow more lighter, all right, because like I said, the distance, all right, the softer the shadow, the distance the object is to the surface, and that's what I'm trying to achieve here. Now this is not looking okay, so I'm going to use the eraser tool and make sure that under your eraser brush tip, you are on the software brush like mine, and I'm going to just gently fade this side here. Now the same way you adjust your flow, all right, is still the same way you're going to adjust your flow when using the eraser tool. All right, remember we're still using the brush, and when you're using the eraser tool is similar to the way you use the brush tool. So remember to turn your flow down to 8. And for you using the graphics tablet, remember to check your transfer and make sure your control is on pen pressure. All right, so let's continue. So I'm going to just gently fade this out like that. All right, now I'm not applying too much pressure on my tablet here. Okay, so I'm just going to gently fade this out like that. All right, now you see it's making sense. So I'll go back to the brush tool and I'm going to gently apply the brush back like, oops, I'm beginning to destroy it. So I'm going to apply the brush. I'm going to apply the brush here like that and like that. All right, beautiful. All right, now look at this. So this side here should be closer to the surface. All right, and this side here should have lifts. All right, it should have a lift. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to make the shadow touch this side of. I'm gonna create a distance here. All right, I'm gonna create a distance here. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just gently apply the shadow here, and I'm gonna drag this out here like that. All right, so I'll do it again. I'll do this here like that, and here the shadow needs to be it needs to be stronger. Why? Because this side here is close to the surface. All right, so I'm just gonna make this more better like that. Then I'll reduce my brush size and then apply the shadow here. All right, so there's a lift here, so I can just, all right, you notice this space is curved. All right, so I need to apply that curve here, so I'm just gonna gently fade this out like that and push it back in. All right, and I'm gonna continue here. There's a lift here. I'm gonna do the same move again. Just push this in here like that, and this side needs to be shadow here needs to be stronger. So I'm just gonna, so let's see what we have now. This is making sense already, so I'm just gonna apply more shadow here. Okay, so let's see this side here. I'm gonna apply shadow. Oops. Remember, I said we need to make it dynamic, so I'm not going to apply any shadow to this area, all right, because I actually want it to look like this side is resting on the surface. So, but here, I'm going to apply a shadow here. So I'm just going to push this out. I'm going to make this the size of the, no, sorry, go this way like that. That's too much. So it should be harder. It's something like that. So just the first size of this. Here. Let's see what we have. Yeah, this is beautiful. All right, so the same move here. I'm just going to gently apply the shadow here. All right, so there's a lift, so I'm going to make the shadow curve, and I'm going to make it stronger here like that. All right, that's it. And let's see for this side here. I'm going to also make achieve a lift here, so I'm just going to make the shadow lighter and just make this out of here and do the same thing here. Yeah. Lift again All right, like that one. And just apply. No, I don't want any lifts. I don't want too much lifts. All right, applying too much lift is going to affect the project. Now you see that we're beginning to give the project life. All right, so for this side here, there's a lift here. Look at this side here. There's a to be a lift. So the shadow I'm going to apply here is I'm going to first off apply a soft shadow like that, and I'm going to gently apply a hard shadow here. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing again like that. All right, let's see. This is good. So the same move here, just going to apply. Now this side here needs to be closer to the surface. So I'm just going to make this side, this shadow here stronger like that. Now you see we're beginning to give life to the project. So we're going to apply the same move here again. This time I'm just going to draw a line here like that. So I'm going to do the same here. Just draw, 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 and draw. So I'll go back to my eraser tool and just fade this out a bit. All right, just fade this middle part a bit like that. All right, so the idea is to make it look like this side of the rose is touching the surface. All right, it's resting on the surface. And let's see what we have now. You see, we're beginning to give life to the project. Now, this is beautiful. All right, this is beautiful. Okay, then the other thing I'm going to do again to give this more life is I want to have something like a light reflection of the rose on the surface, because like I always say to you guys, should always be unity. All right, whenever you are making your creative photo manipulation, there should be unity. The elements used on the project should look like they are together. And to achieve that here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold on Alt and just still on the brush tool. Make sure you're on the brush tool. I'm going to hold on Alt. I'm going to sample a color from here like that. And I'm going to increase my brush size. Then I'm going to gently apply the color to this side of my project. All right, this side, this time you need to make this really light. Okay, don't make it too, don't apply too much on the project. All right, so I'm going to hold down Alt again and just pick the color from this side again, reduce my brush size, and still on the same spot, and I'm just going to apply the same color to this side. All right, then I'll go back to the shadow layer, select the brush tool again, zoom in, because I'm beginning to miss some part of the project. So I'm going to apply soft shadow. Excuse me, I need to go back to black. So I'm going to click on this icon here to switch to black and white. And I'm going to just gently apply the brush again to this side. And this side here needs to be darker than this side here. There's a lift there. So we need to make this side here darker than this side, like that. So the same move here, lighter and darker, like that. Let's see. Gonna apply the same move here again, lighter and dark, lighter and dark, like that. All right, yeah, this is good. For this side, you just apply just soft shadow here, because we need to make it look like this is also part of the scene. So I'm just gonna apply shadow there like that. And look at this. This is looking super real. All right, then before I start adding my text to the project, okay, I want to quickly show you guys something, because I know some creatives will feel Caesar. So there's another way you can apply shadow in Photoshop that you don't need to go through this step. The reason why I hardly use this concept I'm about to show you guys now is because it doesn't give me the freedom to do what I'm doing here now. So I'm going to put this in a group. I'm going to hide the shadow. All right, layer. Let's just call this shadow. It should be shadow plus reflection. All right, like that. So then if I double click on the layer to activate the layer style, I'm going to turn on shadow here. Now look at this. This here is not really different from the concept that the designer did. Now it looks as if the rose is from a cutout, printed paper, and is about to land on a surface or lift from a surface. This concept is not going to give me the freedom to create the dynamic shadow. All right, and that's why I hardly use it. But the good thing about this is, if this is, in fact, You can use this, but I only use this when I want to create a hard shadow or maybe a soft shadow behind an element. All right. So this is where I control the softness of the shadow. All right. So if I push this up, you see the shadow looks softer. And if I push this down, it looks harder. All right. And then I can also change the angle of the shadow to where I want it. But I hardly use this. So I'm going to hit cancel and make this visible. And then I'm going to make the text on the album art visible like that. So this is where I'm going to stop. If you have not subscribed, remember to hit the subscribe button and also remember to click the post notification bell so you get notified when I post my tutorials. Click the like button if you enjoyed this video, and also I will appreciate if you can drop a comment. Let me know what you think about this tutorial. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.